Hello, and welcome to Movie Hall, a new show I'm starting on the channel where I talk about movies, new and old, and good and bad. Basically, like I said, the point of this show is to talk about movies and TV shows that I've been watching recently, and giving my thoughts on them in a free-form discussion similar to I Hate Everything's The Quest for the Best. I will not be discriminating between movies and TV shows. I'll just talk about TV shows after I've seen a whole season or a whole series, depending on how I watch them or how long they are. And I will also try and keep each episode between 3 and 5 movies, unless specified otherwise. Say I do a Star Wars episode or Godzilla or Gamera episodes where I'm just talking about the whole series or a whole chunk, era, like the Heisei or Millennium era. I feel as though I should quickly describe my scoring or rankings for each movies. I'm going off of the 5-star metric that Letterboxd has, and the way I rank movies is pretty simple. Anything above a 2.5 I enjoy, anything below a 2.5 I do not enjoy, and a 2.5 is mixed feelings. I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. I just don't care, I guess you could say, about the movie. So with that being said, the movies I'll be talking about today are Kung Fu Pandas 1 and 2, Black Widow, and Dragon Ball Z. So I had already seen Kung Fu Panda 1 once before, and from what I had remembered, I had enjoyed it to a certain extent. I wasn't blown away by it. But this time around I enjoyed it a little bit more, seeing as I've kind of developed a more critical eye on movies and seeing plot devices and cliches. Not to say this movie doesn't have some cliches and MacGuffins in it, but it's a pretty strong animated movie. I think Poe and the Furious Five are pretty great characters, pretty enjoyable, likable. I do think Jack Black every once in a while went a little bit too far in his performance, but other than that, I think the movie is fairly enjoyable. My only real gripe is that it's extremely similar to Star Wars. Now, I do understand that you also can't really do much different or can't do many things different about a hero's journey story. Star Wars is definitely the most famous example of that, but this, I just couldn't shake the similarities to Star Wars. You know, an unlikely warrior is destined to bring down an ultimate bad guy seeking all power and control, and I just couldn't help notice many similarities to Star Wars. One thing that's it's not really negative, but it's more of a head scratcher. You only see Poe training for an afternoon with Master Shifu, and already he's powerful enough and mastered and skilled enough with Kung Fu to fight Tai Long. It's kind of a head scratcher. It's like he's never had any formal training. He's only played with Furious 5 action figures, and he's done a couple push-ups and sit-ups and kicks and stuff. It was a head scratcher to say the least. But it didn't exactly detract from the movie, and I still enjoy it, all things considered. Kung Fu Panda 2 I enjoyed just a tiny bit more. I wouldn't exactly say it's original either. I found some massive similarities to Avatar: The Last Airbender. But again, same with the Star Wars comparisons with Kung Fu Panda 1. It doesn't detract from the story. As with the first movie, the characters are still pretty great, and likable and enjoyable and charismatic. I found Jack Black's performance to be of the same quality, meaning he is a bit too over the top at points for my liking. But overall, it's very similar. It's on the same level as Kung Fu Panda 1, which is a good thing to say considering it's a sequel, and a lot of sequels are pretty trash. I mentioned similarities to Avatar: The Last Airbender. In that show, warlord, tyrant, whatever you want to call it, is destined or prophesized to lose to a warrior that comes from a specific clan or race of people, and that warlord commits mass genocide on that race, leaves one survivor by accident, and dies and loses because of that. That's a pretty bad synopsis of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it's kind of the same. It's a different take on a hero's journey, but I couldn't help notice the similarities between Kung Fu Panda 2 and Avatar: The Last Airbender. In this one, you find out that the crane was prophesized to fall to a warrior of black and white, i.e. a panda, and so he kills every panda in the land, but Po is the only one that survives, and he grows up to take on the peacock. Did I say crane? It's a peacock. I mentioned with the first one that Po really only trains for one day, and he's a kung fu master, which is a bit of a head scratcher. But with this one, they set up the final move that Po is going to use in the end battle way at the beginning of the movie. They set it up. It's pretty easy to tell. If you've ever seen a movie, you can tell that foreshadowing is not subtle at all. But them setting it up and letting us see Master Shifu to the whole like mindful, like empty-minded thing while holding a water droplet and moving it throughout his body perfectly and without hesitation, I guess. It's nice to see that they were building it up and setting it up so that when Po does it at the end of the movie, it doesn't just come out of nowhere. You also see Po practicing this only once, though. If he would do it a couple times, like failing a couple times and then getting it right once or twice beforehand, that would have been a little bit better. But at least they set it up. I know plenty of movies just have the main character just pull some random power out of nowhere. Avatar is actually guilty of this. Aang just has the lion turtle teach him energy bending 30 minutes before the final battle, and then he's able to do it perfectly on the first try. Even then, in an amazing show like Avatar, it's not above falling for certain cliches. So both Kung Fu Pandas 1 and 2, I would give a 4 stars. I really enjoyed both of them. They do have their problems, certain cliches and tropes that movies have, I definitely notice within them, but they're nothing that detract from the movie. Now, I feel like I have to make this disclaimer about this movie because it's being put on a social and political pedestal, and it's understandable why, but I have to make this disclaimer. I don't watch movies to validate or invalidate political opinions that I or somebody else may hold. I only watch movies for my own entertainment, and if I get entertained, either from their abundance of quality or lack of quality, then I'm happy. That being said, I found Black Widow to be a massive meh. I think on my Letterboxd, the opening sentence was painfully average, and I stand by that. The movie's biggest problem is that it's 4 years too late. We already know what happens to Black Widow in this timeline. She dies in Endgame. But having to watch her get more character development for a character we already know is dead is kind of stupid. I think this movie definitely would have been, if not better, at least much more earned, I guess you could say, or at least more necessary if it came out in 2016 or 2017. Moist Critical put it best when he said that this movie is like going to a really popular restaurant and ordering something that you really want and then getting it cold. You know, it's like, couldn't you have given this to us like 2 or even 3 years ago? Because it's been 2 years since Black Widow died in Endgame, so it's getting characterization or more characterization to a character that's already dead and we won't be able to build upon that in any future movies. It's kind of a missed opportunity. Speaking of missed opportunities, Florence Pugh and David Harper are complete missed opportunities for the MCU. It sucks that they were introduced now instead of, again, before Endgame when they could have, been really cool in that movie. So it's just kind of, there are so many missed opportunities in terms of characters. Taskmaster is another one. I feel like the reveal of who Taskmaster isn't really earned. It's just like, oh, you expected it to be a man, but no, it's a woman. I'm not bashing this reveal because it's Taskmaster is revealed to be a woman. I'm bashing it because it feels like they're just doing it because they can have it be a woman instead of a man, which you'd expect it to be a man. I don't know. I'm treading on thin ice right here, but the reveal of Taskmaster being a woman didn't feel earned. It just felt like they were doing it because they were like, oh, you expected it to be a man, but no, it's a woman. I do not give a shit about how comic accurate Taskmaster is. I don't care that it's a woman. It just doesn't feel totally earned. If it were a man, I wouldn't care at all. I wouldn't care even more. The only reason why I'm making this point is because it doesn't feel like they're doing that to better the story. It feels like they're doing it to just be like, oh, you expected a man, but no, it's a woman. I also couldn't help notice many similarities to Mandalorian with the mannerisms and the way that Taskmaster tilted her head and the armor. I just couldn't help but recognize many similarities to that. The CGI also had some pretty massive flops. The biggest example is when a helicopter falls out of the sky in a prairie and it looks terrible. And any close-up of a person where you can obviously tell that they're on a green screen looks pretty bad as well. Like there's this one with Florence Pugh is about to destroy like a helicopter jet thing and it zooms in on her face. It looks terrible. Some of the action is pretty bad too, or at least poorly shot. It's so shaky and up close and poorly edited that you can't really tell what's going on. There was a shot where Florence Pugh smashes a plate on Scarlett Johansson's head, but it takes 4 cuts to do it. This is supposed to be a spy martial arts movie, and it's just kind of disappointing. But my second biggest negative with this movie is the Sky Fortress. It's like, come on. It's literally Sky City. I was expecting Lando Calrissian to come out and be like, what did you do to my ship? But it's like really a massive Sky Fortress and nobody has seen it. Not even the Avengers, not Tony Stark. Like, at least Tony Stark must have seen it, but nope. Like, what if people drive by and see it? They do show a wide shot of, like, clouds surrounding it, but what if it's not a cloudy day? And wouldn't people catch on to the fact that there's, like, this cloud in this one spot the whole time? And also, like, the ending is so weird. They destroy it and it falls to the ground. Then Secretary Ross comes to arrest Black Widow in Russia, but how would he have any jurisdiction there? So I don't know. It's such a weird thing because it's a Russian government program. But why is an American government official coming to arrest Black Widow unless it took place or at least it fell down in the US? So it's just kind of stupid, doesn't make much sense, and it's kind of dumb. Not kind of dumb, it's definitely dumb. But that's not to say the movie isn't all bad. I thought the music gave this movie its own distinctive identity, and I actually really enjoyed the music quite a bit. And Florence Hughes and Scarlett Johansson's chemistry is easily the best part of the movie and is extremely believable, and you can definitely accept that they are sisters or at least grew up together. So on Letterboxd, I rank this at 2.5. I think I might drop it down to a 2 after making this review. The biggest problem is that it's kind of a pointless movie. It should have come out 4 years ago, and there's so many missed opportunities. The music and Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh are good. It's just that everything else, like the actual meat and potatoes of this movie, make no sense. Painfully average Marvel movie, and I'm dropping it from a 2.5 to a 2. Now, I love Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is pretty great. I won't say that it's subtle or in any way philosophical or makes you think in any mind-bending Inception Tenet way. It's just dumb fun. It's kind of a turn your brain off show that doesn't I don't want to say has no merits, but it's amazing the longevity that the show has garnered. Obviously, a highlight of this show is the fights. There are so many fantastic fights in this show. Goku versus Vegeta in the Saiyan Saga, Goku versus Frieza, Android 18 versus Piccolo, and then Tien versus Cell, Vegeta versus Goku, or I guess Majin Vegeta versus Goku, Goku and Vegeta versus Boo. There's so many phenomenal fights in this show that really are pretty great. I think the Cell saga is definitely my favorite, but the Android and Frieza sagas are pretty great on their own. I was extremely surprised that Cell was going to be an android. I always thought that he was like an alien, like Frieza trying to, kill Goku, but it turns out no, he's an alien, or an android. And I was really surprised when they introduced him in the middle of the Android saga and basically made the two previous heels, 17 and 18, well, and 16 as well, and turned them into anti-heroes, or at least not baby faces, but anti-heroes, and made Cell the main heel of pretty much the rest of the series until Boo. So those 3, maybe 4 if you count the Imperfect Cell and Perfect Cell sagas, but those 3 or 4 sagas are definitely my favorite. Now, my favorite character in the show, and probably of anything, is Vegeta. I absolutely love Vegeta. I love how he's just kind of a dick to everybody and enjoys fighting. He isn't one of those characters that's like split between doing the right thing or making tough decisions and all that, sort of like a Eren Yeager or Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. He's just, if I have to kill somebody, I'll kill them. And I like how kind of ruthless and determined he is as well. He really, really shines in the Buu saga. I think he has probably 2 or 3 of his best moments in the Buu saga, and he's definitely probably my favorite character of all time. Now, I watched the Funimation dubs. I know watching dubs is kind of looked down upon. It's just I can't really separate the American or the dubbed voices for like Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo from those characters. I can't really watch the Japanese version because those voices don't make sense to me. They make perfect sense for me in the dub. But the music in this, with Bruce Faulkner's music, is so good. Vegeta's theme is so good. The theme or the song when Gohan arrives to fight Evil Boo is great. There are so many great musical pieces that they get me excited. Now, one negative is that the Buu saga is pretty long, and it doesn't have the reveal or like a twist where, like in the Cell saga, Cell becomes the main heel and sort of changes the direction of the show. Buu is the main bad guy for like 2.5 seasons, and it's kind of it gets a bit tedious when you're just fighting the same guy for like 50 or 60 episodes. Another thing is that these characters have absolutely terrible decision making. Specifically, Gohan, not Goku. Kid Gohan has some terrible decision making skills. He's always, like I mentioned earlier with Eren Yeager or Edward Elric, he's always like freezing up at the wrong point when he has to make a decision to attack somebody, but he might injure somebody else. It's really, really nerve wracking, and it makes me shout at my screen when it's like, just shoot a beam at Garlic Jr. Come on, Piccolo can heal. It's fine. It's just kind of nerve-wracking, I guess you could say. And my last negative, this is a criticism that's been going on ever since Dragon Ball aired. There are tons of filler episodes and sagas where they might just recap somebody's backstory. I know right before Gohan fought Cell, he was like, yeah, and whenever I get angry, I unleash a power that hasn't been controlled yet, or something like that. And there are a couple episodes where it's literally just the recap episode where it tells you what's happened and the character's backstory that we already know, and it can get a bit tedious. And with certain sagas, like the Garlic Jr. saga, which is in between the Frieza and androids, and that like tournament saga where Goku fights Pikkon, I think its name is, in Otherworld, you can kind of skip those and you'll be fine. They're there to fill in spaces between the major like sagas. This isn't on Letterboxd, but if I had to give it a rating, I'd give it a 5 out of 5. It introduced me to my favorite character of all time. I think the music is great, the fights are great. There are so many amazing scenes and moments in this show that I can't help but give it a 5. So those are my thoughts on Kung Fu Pandas 1 and 2, Black Widow, and Dragon Ball Z. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Let me know what you think of this whole format, and if I should even continue this series. I definitely will, even if people don't want me to. I've been wanting to do something like this where I talk about movies for a long time, so I'm glad I would find a format that I wanted to do it in, and I'll see you the next time I have movies to talk about.